Okay, here we are. So we've got our fretboard taped off. Let's just go ahead and check it and take our real nice, we need a couple of different things here. We need a good long straight edge so that you can rock it and see if there's any play from one end to the other. And I'm not feeling any that way. And if you'll just give me just a moment, because I've got to get in here to get another. We need another good straight edge where we can rock individual frets. So I've got a scraper here, it works pretty well. You can do 2 or 3 at a time, 3 or 4 just to double check. Got a little rock right there somewhere. Feels like maybe it's this fret. But overall, there's a little bit of rock there. So I'm expecting there's going to be a little bit of rock in the 3 fret setup. A bit there. Not much. This is going to be pretty easy. Alright, so take your blackie, a Sharpie, black Sharpie here. Can't get my English out today. Mark a line on the top of each fret. And the good news is that we don't have to do a whole lot because our fretboard was really good and flat, right? So our frets are really good and flat. There's just 1 or 2 spots where there's just a little bit of an issue. So I'm going to very carefully mark each one. So, all right. Now, my favorite way to do this, and I'm going to do this with a higher grit here, because I don't have very far to go. Got a piece of sandpaper, and I need a really good flat surface that I know is going to be absolutely flat and long enough. So I'm going to take one of my handy dandy planes. This is a Wood River smoothing plane. I'm going to back the blade out. I don't want the blade to contact at all. I'm leaving it in there because the sole is flat under tension, and you can check this for yourself if you like. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my sandpaper, I'm going to wrap it around the sole like that, and then I'm going to very carefully sand in what would be the direction of the strings. Now, like I said, I don't have to take a whole lot. And I can tell you right now, I have already sanded the black off of every one of my frets, with the exception of this little one down here. So just do that. Alright, that means those should be level. So we'll go back. Check with my flat. Smaller one. Smaller. I need to get 3 in here. Notice I'm checking multiple places on the fret, because you could have a high spot here and not there. Okay? And so if you have a high spot here, it's only going to affect the 1st, 2nd string, but not necessarily the 3rd and the 4th. So this is where you can kind of spot check. I have a very tiny rock on this fret. You have to get a narrower piece to do this. I don't think I'm going to have an issue down here. But I have a narrower, slightly. I don't think I have one smaller than that. Got one right there. Let's see, does it go all the way across? No. Okay. If it's very slight and it's only on one or two, you might be able just to take your small hammer and pop it down a little further into the fret slot. Try not to do that if I can help it. Okay, so these frets are leveled. You might have to take more works than that. If your fretboard had a little concave or a little bit of a hump to it, you may need to go farther. You may need to spend more time getting those flat. Okay. Now, there's two ways of going about polishing these. The first is to take your triangle file, set it up next to that fret, start moving it, and just gradually come over the top. Don't come all the way onto the top. We're just trying to bring our fret back to crown. The other way is if you have this tool, we can just set it there and work our way. Why do we recrown? We recrown because if you have a giant flat spot on that fret, you're going to have problems intonating that note. It's going to either sound sharp or flat depending on how you fret it. So you try to do a really good job of making sure that your frets are crowned properly. Careful here at the edge. Make sure that you're getting the fret and nothing else. Got to do it this way, do it this way. Okay? Now, on these little two pieces here at the end, I need to make sure that they don't have a sharp spot. So I'm going to very carefully take a rounded file here momentarily, and I'm going to round those into the same shape on the edge there that the fretboard is, in order that it's sets in there properly. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and clean up my workspace, because make sure that I'm maintaining a clean area with my guitar with all its finish on it. I don't want to have a bunch of extra stuff that causes me issue later. So my fret filing is basically done except for those edges. Actually, I'm going to keep that one out just in case I need it again here in a minute. Away. I can also remove my tape. Alright, so I'm going to remove my tape and then we'll go about polishing these. Alright, so let's do a little polishing here. Now there will be a lot of people that will tell you, you know, take sandpaper and whatever else and go along that and really shine them up. Well, here's my take on it. Get you some steel wool. And this is quadruple aught steel wool. So when you look at the package, and I'll have a package right there ready, at the bottom it'll tell you it goes from really coarse to really fine. You want the finest steel wool you can get. And what we're going to do is we're going to work along the frets. And polish it right up. Okay? We're just going to go right there along the fret and do our best job of just getting right there along the fret. And you'll notice, and though it probably doesn't show up on the camera, there's going to be a difference in the color of the fret after you've polished it versus before you polish. Now when we're doing this, if you've got any of that glue residue on your fretboard, it will be polishing that off a little as well. Notice when I'm doing this also that I'm scratching this direction. I'm focusing on the fret, but there's also going to be some scratching onto the fretboard in that direction. So once we have finished going along the direction of the fret, I'm almost there. A couple more little frets to go here. The last couple are really small and hard to do. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go along the direction of the fretboard. And this takes those horizontal marks out. This also makes our fretboard really, really dry. So once you've done that, set your steel wool aside. Take a brush, soft brush, brush away from your sound hole. And get all of that dust off of there. We don't want to have any of that dust anywhere left on the guitar. And once you've done that, you can then pick up your guitar and dust off the workbench. You do not want to have that adhering to anything that you might be working on. Okay. Now, we're ready to carve the neck, and then we can do the setup, and this will be ready to play. So that's it for fret polishing. Before you put your final set of strings on it, because you'll probably have two sets of strings, you'll use a set of strings to do the setup, and then you'll probably put a set of strings on it to give to the customer. And so in doing so, between that set, you'll probably want to oil the fretboard, bring some of the color back before you do it. Alright?